The Magic of Thinking Big by David Schwartz. Welcome to my channel. My name is Samuel and I want to make self-growth normal. If you want to make self-growth normal, because I don't want to do it alone, and who doesn't want to make self-growth normal, then make sure to smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. Before checking this book out, I never really thought all that much about it. How unmagical of me, right? I wasn't sure what to expect, but something told me I would end up just dubbing it another grandchild, if you will, of Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. My favorite book ever. And it's my favorite book ever because that book is it's a very, very well executed testament to the soul power and limitlessness of human thought. But what about this one? Does it actually separate itself? Because it could be a grandchild, but personal development books they've been my bread and butter, I like to think, since I started reviewing books on this channel. I'm just saying this because if you've been following me for a while, you probably noticed that we're running into these books that from time to time just seem like noticeably repackaged content. But I find it tricky with books like that because I don't want my audience to feel like they're just watching the same repackaged review. So how does this book separate itself from others of its kind? How does the author really encompass big thinking? If it doesn't encompass big thinking, what's another book that would easily fill that void? Let's talk about this, and let's also talk about, each chapter. I'm also going to go over some standout quotes from the book. There were a lot of them, more than usual. I'm also going to say who I recommend this book to, as well as what books to maybe check out next. There are, 13 chapters. Chapter 1 is Believe You Can Succeed and You Will. Have you heard something like this before? Bits and pieces scattered across the sidelines of the first chapter sound right off the bat like they were written by Napoleon Hill. Something else that makes it difficult, by the way, is how biased am I with this? Because it's almost like I'm going into this book, and this is kind of unhealthy, almost trained to sniff out these things for just confirmation of what might support my opinion. Really, my only qualm of this book is just how similar it is to Napoleon Hill's work. I'd like to say it faded the further I got into the book, but there was a dip, there was a substantial dip, and then toward the end, it picked way back up. There are points where he compares, and this is just points, there are points where he compares the mind to a broadcasting and receiving station. He teaches that everything tangible begins in the form of an idea. And it's not even just what he's saying, it's also how he's saying it too. Some of it sounds like he ripped the words right out of a Napoleon Hill book. I don't think I even heard the name Napoleon Hill mentioned at all in this book. There was one chapter later that actually reminded me a lot of How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie too. Chapter 2 is Cure Yourself of Excusitis, the failure disease. This also sounds like something Napoleon Hill would write today. The 4 different types of excusitis, which I really did like, by the way, they're explained in a way that's very similar to how Napoleon Hill explains the 6 ghosts of fear in Think and Grow Rich. Where they come from, their anatomies, or what have you. And it's really not that I disagree with this guy. In fact, I agree with him to the fullest. I really like how he explains them and everything, but I think that's because I just really like how Napoleon Hill does it. Their health, stupidity, age, and luck. But just when you write a book about the power of thinking, what's in that book that's not in other books that are about the power of thinking that have been written far before yours? Chapter 3 is Build Confidence and Destroy Fear. He lists all the things fear does to us individually and collectively, just like Napoleon Hill does in the 6 Ghosts chapter. Deeper into this chapter, however, is where the lengths of his stories kind of extend and take over. And it's interesting because it's almost like no matter what you do with a book like this, it seems like as long as it sells incredibly well, this book it changes life after life repeatedly and in an extraordinary way. The next chapter, How to Think Big, there's this example of a story as this realtor who looks at not just how properties are, but what they could be, and designs his presentations for particular prospects around that. He took a farm, for example. He's there's so many different ways you can make so much money with this farm. Here, you could do it by this, with the horses. You could do it with I don't remember the other ones, but they were, the fact that you could come up with multiple ways is just, that is imagination. But not many salespeople know how to do stuff like that. And it makes a ton of sense. And it's super smart because that's another reason that you can easily use this to charge more money than them. And this is just one story from one chapter of this book. That's another thing that I really like about this book. that did separate it from Think and Grow Rich, kind of. The next chapter is How to Think and Dream Creatively. I didn't really have that much to say on this chapter. The next chapter is called You Are What You Think You Are. With Think and Grow Rich, this one isn't an entire carbon copy. This one focuses a lot more on career advancement, salesmanship for sure. I mean, to be fair, literally to be fair, aside from something like on the internet like YouTube or drop shipping, for example, which by the way yield far like exponentially greater returns, sales is based on how well you do. One of my managers told me that 100% commission is the fairest way to is the fairest compensation. If you're not in sales, by the way, I've said it before, I'll say it again, get into sales as soon as possible. Please, the younger you are, the better, only because you have more time to improve. What he did with this book, regardless of like how repackaged the contents are, it is very difficult to do. You can tell that this guy didn't just put this together. In chapter 7, Manage Your Environment, he puts way more emphasis, it seems, on work environment, surprise, than school, I don't know, home, military. But how many books have talked about environment and the effects that it has on your mind? Chapter 8 is Make Your Attitudes Your Allies. Things like appreciating and complimenting people out of habit. Even small stuff like addressing someone as Mr. Jones instead of just Ralph. If someone instead of Sam, if someone called me Mr. Belman, I would feel so important. Or if it's not a very well-known name, I just look up how to pronounce this name. I put it in the customer notes on the CRM. Because let me tell you, my memory can be a little... In this chapter, there is so much talk about quality customer service. Like, I was blown away with this book at how money, customer service, business centralized. There's some word I'm looking for here. But on that same token, like, how do I say this? By chapter 8, Think Right Towards People, by that chapter I decided that the book it's just a lot more about thinking positively than thinking big. Being likable, changing negative thoughts and environments to positive ones. If this is supposed to be about thinking big, I hope anyone who thinks big thinks positive, because if it's not positive thoughts, it's dangerous. It's a dangerous person we're looking at here.
You think Hitler was a small thinker?
A lot of people who don't think positive could easily use a book like this before getting a book about thinking big. Over 6 million copies sold. Does this guy have a book about called The Magic of Thinking Positive? Magic of Thinking Positive. Come on, Motorola, Verizon. What router does my mom use? I don't even know. It's better some days than others. Alright, so I did not find The Magic of Thinking Positive, but I did find The Magic of Positive Thinking by Vishal Pendy. Chapter 10 is called Get the Action Habit. This chapter, if you don't have a problem with procrastination, it may not be something you need to hear. I understand that repetition is the mother of skill. I understand that many of these ideas are probably presented quite differently from the ways that they were in the past. I heard once, it actually may have been from this book, that like the best way to learn something is to learn it 100 times. I'd say 1,000 times, maybe that's just me. And I totally agree with all of these things, but you don't need to pay for it 100 times. As much as I'd rather not say this book lacks a certain novelty. If you showed me this book and you put written by Napoleon Hill on the cover, I imagine I would not only believe you, but give it a similar review to How to Raise Your Own Salary, which in summary was an incredible book that said not much more or less than Think and Grow Rich at all. Chapter 11 is Turn Defeat into Victory. Need I say more on all of this? Like, how can I, okay, let's apply a little bit of the book's contents here, shall we? How can I think of this book as novel? Because there's gotta be some way. Using my imagination here, like with Think and Grow Rich and How to Win Friends and Influence People, this book is kind of like those two. Maybe 75% Hill, 25% Carnegie, but like, this book just has maybe a little bit more of a business twist to it. I didn't really have anything else to say about Use Goals to Grow, Chapter 12, and How to Think Like a Leader, Chapter 13. The leadership chapter, that chapter reminded me a lot of, do I even need to say it at this point? A much more accurate book, I would say, on the magic of thinking big would be the 10x rule by Grant Cardone, about multiplying your thinking and actions and everything by 10. I mean, if you bought Think and Grow Rich and How to Win Friends and Influence People and read each of them 10 times, this book is nothing more than a nice, warm refresher of that knowledge. Maybe a little newer, maybe a little bit more nuanced, just a tad though at the most, and saying,
Oh, well, why buy 2 books when I could just buy 1?
normally, like I probably would if it weren't about, like, if this were about, like, I don't know, ice cream or like horseradish instead of, I don't know, just like gloves instead of books, but like, I've made probably over $10,000 now applying contents from those books. And I guess to some degree as a result, this book. And maybe I'm not the biggest book reviewer on YouTube. Maybe I'm not the best business development rep for a dealership in the country or Pennsylvania. But that is the furthest thing from saying I will be. And I mean, whatever book you get, I feel like I'm making all of this like a lot bigger of a deal than it probably is. If whatever I say is of influence, I just advise making a choice that will help you to influence yourself to move in the best direction for you and the world. Believe it or not, it was overall incredibly easy for me to listen to this book. I just found it difficult to review for the, I don't know, 19th time. Hopefully the reason why is obvious. I love the contents, I just don't love the innovation. Quotes. Great men are those who see that thoughts rule the world. I'm going to live until I die, and I'm not going to get life and death confused. Underneath, he's probably a really nice guy. Most people are. Sure, you may be a little more conspicuous in the front, but remember there is nothing inconspicuous about success. Man belongs where man wants to go. It pays to treat small people bigger. It pays to treat big people bigger. How you think when you lose determines how long it will be till you win. Direction 1. A lot of this book I recommend to anyone who wants to improve him or herself. I mean, the way I see it, there are like not really any I don't think there's a single pitfall in the author's viewpoint. I endorse it completely, though not to sound ageist or anything like that. The younger you are, the better, only because again of time being on your side. Direction 2. If you like this book, I know this may be longer, this book, but in fact, it's actually 3 times longer, and this is like a 9-hour long audiobook. But The Law of Success by Napoleon Hill, it's amazing. It's like Think and Grow Rich, which is a lot like this one. But I found it a lot more nuanced and sales and business focused. The Magic of Thinking Big by David Schwartz. There's a link in the description if you guys want to check it out and read the reviews. That and all the other books that I mentioned in this video, if you want to check those out too. But if you guys buy anything through those links, then I get commission, which helps me build this channel and keep making these videos. If there are any other books that you guys want me to check out and review, please let me know in the comments below, and also let me know what you thought of this book. But hey, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, because I don't get why people watch this far into my videos and they don't subscribe. But if you have subscribed and you want to turn it up just a notch and turn on that notification bell to get a notification whenever I drop new videos, that will mean the world to me. Thank you guys so much for watching, I really appreciate it. You can find me everywhere, and I will see you then.